This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And we are back for the Primetime Podcast right here on Most Valuable Podcast, your one-stop shop. I couldn't hear myself well, and I'm like, you know what? I think the headphones aren't loud enough, and that was the point. Or that was the case, I should say. Headphones weren't loud enough, so they are nice and loud now. We're ready to kind of talk. We got NFL Draft today. We're going to have Matthew on, one of our patrons, who's going to talk NBA Draft with us, and then we're closing the show. I feel like we haven't talked about this in forever, but we're actually going to talk about some college football today and not look at draft for our final segment. But before we get into everything that we're going to talk about, a little housekeeping here at the beginning. Number one, if you want to be like Matthew, be on a podcast, or you just want to support Most Valuable Podcast, check out patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. That link down below in the description. You can also grab an MVP t-shirt. That store link also down below in the description as well. MostValuablePodcast.com. NFL Draft fans, I came out with a 7-round mock draft. We are getting closer and closer to it. Let me know what you guys think about who I have your team taking. That link is also down below in the description. And last but not least, if you're on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, go give the Primetime Podcast a 5-star rating. But Brandon, talking about quarterbacks in the draft, talking about the NBA draft process, talking about Tennessee football to round out the show. But let's start the show with some NFL draft. Like I said, talking quarterbacks. And the big thing coming into Thursday, like I told Sean yesterday on our basically NFL draft special, I'll say 5 topics that Sean and I did yesterday, I told him that the thing I hate about this week is things will come out and you don't know if it's real or if it's just a smokescreen. Like the Buffalo Bills going, we're not going to trade for 2. Are you not going to trade for 2? Or are you just saying that so someone else does try to trade for 2 so that you can trade for something else and take a guy that you really like? Also, I was listening to The Herd today and Jay Glazer was on, and he was saying how the process works basically is teams will put their draft boards together Sunday, then yesterday and today they'll argue with each other who they like better, and basically they'll do that all the way until the draft starts on Thursday night of who they like better and kind of fight with themselves to who they should put at the top. But we know already someone's going number 1 quarterback. A quarterback could be going number 2, probably will be going number 3. What are you thinking coming into this draft about the quarterbacks and kind of about how many we could see go on the first night of the NFL draft?
Well, as we all know, everyone and anyone who's been covering and following all the coverage for probably what seems now the last 6 months to a full year of these quarterbacks and their progression and where they've been and where we expect them to be. There's a plethora of quarterbacks. I mean, this is every year it seems like there is a heavy something. You know, is it a heavy running back draft class? Is it a really good elite wide receiver draft class? Is it a really good quarterback heavy an elite draft class? Well, this year we've got a quarterback-heavy draft class.
We were even saying that last year. We're like, you don't need a guy here. You'll get him next year. We got 5 of them that can go for sure.
And I think, though, too, even after we looked last week, I mean, we talked about Saquon Barkley, and we have talked about him at the top, but I think we also had a pretty good discussion about some other guys that are underneath him, probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 guys that someone could say, hey, I'm going to take him. This is going to be quality running back. So you could even still say it that there are some other good quality running backs. I think at wide receiver, that's probably the lightest in terms of this year's draft class. But going back to the quarterbacks, when I look at it, I see 5 quarterbacks that I could see going in this first round. And those quarterbacks are Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, and Lamar Jackson. And I see all of them going. Honestly, the first 4, probably within the first 12 picks.
Maybe even the top 10.
Possibly. And Lamar Jackson, for some reason, unless they shake it up, which actually all the signs and people around the league are saying they will, the New England Patriots, I could see the New England Patriots, as I've said now for a while, not like, oh gosh, I'm right, I'm the only one who's ever said it, but I've believed that the New England Patriots would be a good fit with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson would be a good fit with them. Would it be different than what they've had in Tom Brady? Absolutely, it would be different. But would it be, I think, a fun new project for Bill Belichick? Yeah, it absolutely would be. But with the New England Patriots kind of, and I don't want to get too much into onside kick territory, but with the New England Patriots,
Go ahead. The onside kick, we don't have one until after the first round.
Well, a lot of people,
ahead.
with Tom Brady seemingly being iffy, supposedly on coming back, but then his agent saying, yes, he is going to play. And then Gronk being, a guy who's kind of iffy. And then someone asking him just the other day if he was going to be attending the off-season workouts. And he said, no, I've got some motorbiking to do or motorsport to do, whatever he said. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't usually fly too well with Bill Belichick. And they've also talked about, do the New England Patriots say, okay, Gronk, you come back. Okay, we're all good. Okay, Gronk, we're trading you and possibly something else to get even higher into the draft, to whether it's take Lamar Jackson with a big shock that high, or if it's to take somebody else, one of those other quarterbacks, because the New England Patriots, people can call them a lot of different words, but one is not dumb.
No.
They know exactly what they're doing.
And
They know exactly who they
up.
want. They know exactly who they want. So I'm very intrigued by what they could do. I'm very intrigued on, who's going to be this year's Bears. Now, I know the Bears only traded up one spot, but they traded a whole lot to go get Mitchell Trubisky last year.
Right now it's the Jets, but how much they gave up already just to move from 6 to 3 to get their guy because they're going to go quarterback.
Yeah. I think that, this is going to be a very, very fun and exciting first round. But I do think, and I would be shocked if not every single one of those quarterbacks, those 5 that I named, don't go.
We're going to play a game. And the reason why we're going to play this game is because you mentioned Lamar Jackson. And as this topic is coming out, the reason why we're doing this is we did this on the onside kick. Thanks to Sean for the graphic you're going to see and the stats. If you check your email, Brandon, I actually emailed it to you so you can look at it while I kind of read these off and you don't have to remember all the numbers. So we were talking about Lamar Jackson on the onside kick, and Sean put up this graphic. There's 4 players. I am going to read them off for everyone.
I voted on this.
Did you?
I did.
Great, because I want to know. I'm going to ask you the same questions that Sean asked me, and then I will basically reveal who they are, and you're going to be pretty shocked with this.
I'm sure I will be.
I'm going to put the graphic up for you guys on YouTube, but for you guys listening on podcast services around the world, player 1 has and these are all junior year stats of college. So player 1 had 298 attempts in that season, a completion percentage of 64.4, a touchdown to INT of 30 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, 673 rushing yards. Player 2, 396 attempts. He had 61.6 was his completion percentage, 27 touchdowns, 11 INTs, 986 rushing yards. Player 3, 430 attempts, 59.1 completion percentage, 27 touchdowns, 10 INTs, 1,600 yards. He had 1,601 was his exact total. And then player 4, 527 attempts, 58.4 completion percentage, 28 touchdowns to 14 INTs, 435 rushing yards. The first question I'm going to ask you, Brandon, is what Sean asked me. Rank them from number 1 being the guy you would like out of these 4, that's the guy I'm picking, all the way through where 1's the best, 4's the lowest. How would you rank them in what order?
Well, when I voted on Twitter for this, I voted fairly quickly, overwhelmingly. I voted with player 1.
Okay. I picked player 1 also.
And I did that because I like the completion percentage. I like the touchdown to interception ratio. The attempts, though, I look at that and I think, okay, you're not throwing the ball all that much when you compare it to everybody else. But is it because you're not having to force it? you have a good running game,
What
all that kind of
system
stuff.
are you in?
Exactly. So now I'm thinking about all these things. So I'd either go player 1 or player 2 at number 1.
Okay, so player 1 at 1, player 2 at 2.
To be honest with you, I'm going to go player 1 as my first, player 2 as my second, player 3 is my third, player 4 is my fourth.
Okay. I am going to reveal them to you. The first one I'm going to start with is your last guy, player 4.
Okay.
There's 3 of these guys are in the NFL now. One of them is in the draft this year. This guy is in the NFL now. Who do you think it is?
Player 4?
Yes. He played for, I'll give you a hint. He plays in the NFC West. Russell Wilson.
Okay.
Russell Wilson is player 4.
That's surprising to me, though, with only 435 rushing yards.
His junior year, though. He also played at 2 schools. He played at Wisconsin and NC State. Player 3 is in the draft this year. Who do you think it is? He's in the draft this year. This one was easy. I picked this one out like that. Out of all the quarterbacks, who's got the most rushing yards? Lamar Jackson. So player 3 is Lamar Jackson. Player 4 is player 2 is in the NFL, plays in the NFC East.
I'm trying to think of a Dak Prescott.
It is Dak Prescott. And then player 1, the guy that you picked, the guy that I picked, same reasoning too. I was like, the system, he probably didn't throw that much. I like the high completion percentage. I love the touchdown to interception ratio. He's playing baseball. He's a baseball player right now. Who is that? Played for the Denver Broncos, won 1 playoff game.
Tim Tebow?
Tim Tebow. That is Tim Tebow's stats from his junior year of college. I found this very interesting when Sean revealed it to me, is that it's like, I picked Tim Tebow because of the stats, but would he be the quarterback that I would want? Looking at hindsight, probably not. But also with him, it was a whole situation of Denver basically ruined him too and didn't teach him how to throw the football. The thing about this was like Lamar Jackson, of what is he going to be at the NFL level. And the thing I love about him is that he comes from a pro-style offense. Pro-style offense in college, plays with a pro-style coach. Bobby Petrino is a pro-style guy. For me, I think that these quarterbacks, I'm talking about the ones in this draft now, not from our little experiment. I think if I had to guess of how they're going to fall, Darnold and Allen are going to be 1-2 interchangeably. One's going to go 1, the other one will go 2. Then I think Baker Mayfield will be the 3rd quarterback off the board. Then it becomes tricky to me. The only way I see Josh Rosen and Lamar Jackson, whoever goes 4, a team's going to trade up to get them. So for me, is if a team trades up to get him, it'll be Josh Rosen who goes first. Otherwise, I could see Lamar Jackson going first. But I'll say Rosen goes 4, Lamar Jackson goes 5, and then my question for who finishes out the first round is Mason Rudolph. He's the question mark, because does a Saints team at the end of the first round, Sean Payton was on the Dan Patrick Show this week, said last year they were going to take Patrick Mahomes, didn't get to because the Chiefs took him. Are the Saints is a different team like the Chargers, who Mark and I 2 weeks ago kind of discussed how they're thinking about taking a quarterback in the second round. They like Mason Rudolph. However, they're a team that has the capital that they can say, screw it, we're going to trade up with one of those teams later on to just grab Mason Rudolph and get our guy. That's the question for me when it comes to how many quarterbacks get drafted. 5 are getting drafted for me in the first round for sure. That 6 is, will somebody, and I'll ask you, will somebody trade back into the first round to grab Mason Rudolph?
Well, someone who certainly wouldn't trade back into the first round would be the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs, I don't see the Chiefs trading back into the first round. Because they don't even have a first round pick. They don't need a quarterback because they've got their guy.
Yep.
I don't necessarily see them giving up anything to get back into the first round because they don't need a quarterback. They don't need a running back. They really don't need a wide receiver. I guess I don't know if there's anything first round worthy that they would do. So specifically looking at a team like that, I don't see them, trying to bounce back into the first round. Now it's going to be interesting when we're going through the draft and what teams that are in the first round may be trading up to try and get higher to take a guy that you're like, oh, didn't know they were looking at them, or to try and see if they could. I don't want to say try and pull a fast one on any teams, but try and get them, give a team a great package for that team, and then slide in there and take the player, and then we're sitting here surprised, going, the New York Giants didn't take anybody there at number 2. They traded it away, and you're just kind of befuddled. But
Gettleman there, I think he's the owner. I apparently earlier this week, and yet again, could be a smokescreen. I don't know what they're thinking. He apparently said that there's no way he passes on Barkley at 2. So if the Browns don't go Barkley, he's basically saying Saquon Barkley's our pick at 2 to help out Eli Manning. Now, will that be true? We'll have to wait until Thursday to find out.
Yeah, we absolutely will. I think, again, I don't know if we necessarily will see anyone getting back into the first round who does not have that first round pick to try and take anybody here. But I could see some teams within that first round trying to jump over some other teams, make sure that, like, if they want someone so badly, jumping and making sure that they go and they get them. But of course, if you're trying to go into the top in the first 5 picks, you better be offering some package that's really, really good, either in terms of draft picks or in terms of player draft picks or just player or something like that. Like I mentioned earlier, like a Rob Gronkowski type of deal, where Rob Gronkowski alone could be enough for whatever team, could be enough to be sweet enough for that deal and get into the or higher in the first round.
Which I know someone's probably already said it in the comment section. Last thing we've heard with Gronkowski, him and his agent met today with Belichick, apparently to tell him, I'm playing this season, but anything could happen. Anything can happen with that team. Someone could decide, well, we're going to push this trade, and he can be traded. Nothing is a for sure thing when it comes to the NFL. The thing that I think about, there's 2 teams that I could see trading back into the first round for a quarterback specifically. Either the Denver Broncos or the Chargers. The only 2 I can think of. Patriots want to back up because they traded both of theirs. However, I don't see them trading into the first round to get it. They'll wait until the second or third if they don't get Lamar Jackson in the first, or they don't trade up in the first to get their guy, because that's a thing that they could do. Also, it's an option. That's the word I was looking for. Other than that, there's not many teams. Like the Dolphins could go quarterback, but unless like a Rosen falls to them at 11, I don't see them trading up. At that point, they'll just say, screw it, we'll stick with Tannehill and kind of figure out the successor problem after this year or in later rounds if they find the right guy. The thing that I'm thinking about and kind of like my situation is the 2 teams I mentioned, Broncos and Chargers. I only see the Broncos trading into the first round for that quarterback if they trade the number 5 pick. Sean and I talked about, should they trade that pick? Elway has said, you know what, we're open to trading the 5th pick, basically telling teams like Buffalo, hey, you can pick up that phone. We'll listen. We'll listen to that offer real good. If they trade that first round pick, I could see them either, if it's to a Buffalo, taking a Mason Rudolph at 22 or saying, hey, we didn't get both first. We only got the 12, but we got some back-end capital later in this draft. Let's use some of those picks that we just got to move back into the first round to get 2 first-rounders and get our quarterback. The only way I see the Chargers doing that is if they're sitting there going, all right, we like Mason Rudolph. The Broncos kept their pick, didn't go quarterback. They went with something else. Do we sit here and wait for tomorrow to see what the Broncos do? Or do we say, fuck it, let's trade some of our picks to a team like Minnesota who could trade back and go and grab our guy before the Broncos even have a chance tomorrow on Friday?
Well, a team like the Buffalo Bills, they're a team, they're in dire need of a quarterback.
AJ McCarron ain't nothing special.
Yeah, and we certainly know who's behind him.
5-pick Peterman.
That is his nickname, isn't it?
5PP. I don't even know. I just came up with it off the noggin.
I like that.
5PP.
I like that. Yeah, they're hurting. I mean, they're hurting worse than Denver's hurting, and Denver's hurting. So
they're in better shape. At least they got Case Keenum.
No, well,
after Case Keenum,
yes,
they got Paxton Lynch.
So my whole thing is that Denver would be the likely option of a team to try and trade with, a team to try and coax. Like, you're not going to coax the Cleveland Browns to give up a draft pick in the first round.
Yeah, no, they're set.
Cleveland is set. Not really, but they are. Because I don't think they're sold yet on who they're going to take at number one. Right now, I think it's down to it's down to Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, or Saquon Barkley. Christ, any one of them.
The thing I heard yesterday that Sean and I talked about was that it was between, like, Todd McShay had in his thing, he's hearing it's either they're 50-50 on Darnold and Allen. That's the two they're thinking about. Then today there's an article on ESPN. Well, Baker Mayfield could be the first pick. Like Jay Glazer in that interview I said on The Herd, when The Herd's like, will they really go Baker? He goes, they're probably talking about it. They probably don't know who the hell they want to take now.
And see, that's the thing.
They're trying to argue with each other about who they want, and they're gonna overanalyze. Like, it's kind of like overanalyze.
They're gonna overanalyze, and the Cleveland Browns more so are gonna overanalyze because they're gonna say, guys, let's really sit down, look at this. Who can we pick that won't get us fired within the year?
True. True. I mean, we don't want to get shutted.
We would like to keep our jobs for at least 5 seasons.
I mean, hey, Hugh Jackson, only 1 win in 2 years. I mean, I think his job's pretty safe. I think it's pretty safe if you haven't gotten fired at this point.
But at this point for Cleveland, I mean, more so than probably any other team, because not only do you have the first pick in the draft, you have the fourth pick in the draft. You have 2 premier picks within the top 5,
and they've got 5 in the first 2 rounds.
And you have got to be so strategic. You have got to do as much homework as you possibly can to make sure that those picks are the right ones.
Yep.
Which, as hard as that is to say, you've got to be able to do it.
Yeah, they've got 2 picks in the top 5, 5 picks in the top 64. That's a lot of picks to have. And the thing, before we move on into the thing I want to do to end this segment, I want to ask you, give me your prediction of, you don't have to tell me where they go, but tell me who you think, look into your crystal ball for Thursday, what order are these quarterbacks going to get drafted and how many will go? You can tell me who they go to, or you can just say, screw it, I'll just tell you what order they get drafted in.
Okay.
Just the quarterbacks.
So Josh Allen
will be the first quarterback.
Quarterback. He'll go to the Browns.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield will be the second quarterback. He'll go to the Jets.
Okay.
And then I think that we're going to see Sam Darnold as the third quarterback. He's going to go to the Bills.
Okay.
Who traded with the Broncos.
Okay.
To get him. That's third, right? Then the fourth quarterback.
Rosen or Lamar?
The fourth quarterback, I think Josh Rosen's going to go to the Dolphins.
Okay.
And then Lamar Jackson, fifth one, he's going to go to the Patriots.
Really? So I've got 2 questions for you before we close this and go on into kind of like the tail end to this first topic. Why would the Cardinals pass on Lamar Jackson? That's the big question I have, is because you've got between the Dolphins and the Patriots that Cardinal pick at 15. That's the one where if that happened, I'd be like, whoa, that's a shocker.
Because if the other guys, if Allen through Darnold are already gone, I think the Cardinals would go for more like a Mason Rudolph than a Lamar Jackson.
Plus, they got Sam Bradford and the Ginger Giraffe, so they're fine. They got Mike Glenn and Sam Bradford. They got the NFC North trash. They don't need to get anything else.
So my whole thing is that with the Cardinals, I don't know if I could see like Lamar Jackson fitting their system. I feel like they need more of a Mason Rudolph type, whereas the New England Patriots, I think that they would be happy to have Lamar Jackson and be able to bring him in and use. I feel like at that point the Cardinals would be looking more for a guy who's not necessarily going to be like. I don't want to say that Lamar Jackson will be a run-first guy because that's not fair, but they want someone more like the Josh Allen or a Sam Darnold or something like that. And when they don't get him, they'll go for Mason Rudolph over Lamar Jackson.
So before I give mine, want to kick it off to you guys. Let us know who you guys think are going to go in the list of quarterbacks. Who goes first, second, third? How many first-round quarterbacks do you think will be taken?